The Grand Assembly Hall was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known galaxy. It floated at the center of the Orion Arm, a massive station where 3,000 different species gathered to decide the fate of worlds. Today, like every other day for the past 47 years, the delegates had come to laugh at humanity. Vorn stood at the central podium. He was tall and covered in golden scales, and his voice echoed through the vast chamber like thunder. As High Speaker of the Galaxy Council, he commanded the attention of every being in the room. And right now he was pointing one long finger at the empty podium in the far corner. "Look at them," Vorn said, his sharp teeth showing in a wide smile. "The mute primitives. The children who stumbled upon fire and thought they discovered the universe." Laughter filled the chamber. 3,000 species, millions of delegates, all laughing at the small blue planet called Earth. But the podium was not empty. A man sat there, just as he had sat there for 20 years. His name was Tay, and he was Earth's ambassador to the galaxy. He was not tall. He was not impressive. He wore a simple black suit, and his dark hair was neatly combed. He held a small notebook in his hands, and he wrote in it quietly while the galaxy mocked his world. He did not speak. He never spoke. In 20 years, Tay had not said a single word in this chamber. Some delegates threw holographic insults at him. Bright images of primitive humans banging rocks together. Cartoons of Earth being eaten by larger planets. Tay watched them all with calm eyes. When one hologram showed humans crawling like insects, he simply turned the page of his notebook and continued writing. "Perhaps they cannot speak," said a delegate from the Morith species. "Perhaps their tiny brains have not developed language." More laughter. "Perhaps," said another delegate, "we should teach them. Like pets." The laughter grew louder. Vorn raised his hand for silence. "Enough entertainment. We have real matters to discuss. Let us leave the primitives to their silence." The session continued. Trade agreements. Border disputes. The harvesting rights for 3 uninhabited star systems. Tay listened to all of it. He wrote in his notebook. He recorded every word, every deal, every secret that the council thought he was too stupid to understand. When the session ended, Tay stood up. He bowed politely to the delegates nearby, even the ones who had insulted him. Then he walked out of the chamber with quiet steps. Behind him, Vorn watched with narrow eyes. 47 years, he muttered to his assistant. 47 years, and they have never said a word. What kind of species stays silent for so long? His assistant shrugged. A primitive one. High Speaker. Vorn nodded slowly. Yes, of course. But something about the human's calm face bothered him. Something he could not name. Far away on the planet Earth, an old man named Psyoak sat in a bunker deep beneath the mountains. He was the chairman of Earth's United Council, and he had held this position for 30 years. His hair was white now, and his hands shook when he lifted his tea. But his mind was still sharp as a blade. Yuna walked into the room. She was young, barely 40, but she had spent her entire adult life doing one job. She listened to the galaxy. Every transmission, every signal, every whisper that traveled through space. Yuna caught it and studied it. "Tay's report has arrived," she said, placing a tablet on Siok's desk. The old man read it slowly. They laughed again. They always laugh. Siok smiled. It was not a happy smile. Let them. He turned to look at a screen on the wall. It showed a date, 47 years ago. The day everything changed. "Tell me the story again," he said softly. "I like to remember why we stay silent." Yuna sat down across from him. She had told this story many times, but she understood why he needed to hear it. 47 years ago, we received a transmission from space. It was a welcome message from the Galaxy Council. They said they had found us. They said they wanted to invite us to join the community of civilized species. She paused. "Oh, but our scientists noticed something strange." The message had 2 layers. The first layer was friendly. The second layer was hidden, encrypted in a way they thought we could never decode. But we decoded it, Siok said. We decoded it, and we found the truth. The truth was terrible. The hidden layer contained detailed invasion plans. It described how the Council handled primitive species. First, they made contact. Then they studied the new species, learned their weaknesses, mapped their resources. Finally, when they knew everything, they harvested. Some species were enslaved. Some were eaten. Some were simply erased, their planets stripped of all valuable materials and left as dead rocks floating in space. The Galaxy Council was not a government. It was a hunting club. And humanity was the newest prey. They had a choice, Siok said. We could beg. We could fight. We could run, but you chose silence. Yes, the old man's eyes were hard. I chose silence. Let them think we are stupid. Let them think we are weak. Let them laugh while we learn. Let them celebrate while we prepare. For 47 years, Earth had said nothing to the galaxy. But Earth had not been sleeping. Earth had been building. Earth had been planning. Earth had been waiting. Yuna placed another tablet on the desk. There is more news. Vorn is pushing for something called a compliance vote. Teok raised an eyebrow. If Earth does not speak at the next council session, they will declare us a non-sentient resource world. The old man was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a dry, cold sound. They are impatient. Good, Chairman. If they pass this vote, they will come to harvest us. Siok looked at her with eyes that had seen too much and waited too long. I have spent 47 years preparing for this moment. Let them come. He turned back to the screen where a countdown timer was running. Earth's silent fleet. Earth's secret weapons. Earth's hidden army. All waiting. Already? They think our silence means we have nothing to say, Siok whispered. They are wrong. We have been saving our words. And when we finally speak, the galaxy will never forget the sound. In the Grand Assembly Hall, Vorn called for the compliance vote. The delegates cheered. They had waited so long to claim Earth for themselves. The vote passed without opposition. Earth had 30 days to speak or be destroyed, in his small quarters on the council station. Tay received the news. He read the message carefully. Then, for the first time in 20 years, he smiled. He typed one word and sent it to Earth. Finally, the Gobi Desert was one of the emptiest places on Earth. Nothing but sand and rocks stretched for thousands of kilometers. Under a burning sun. No cities, no roads, no signs of life. That was exactly why Jiho loved it. He walked through a door that did not exist. From the outside there was only sand. But the door led to an elevator, and the elevator went down. Down past the rock, down past the water, down into a world that the galaxy did not know existed. The underground facility was vast. It stretched for 50 kilometers in every direction, a city beneath the desert. And inside this city, humanity had been building its future. Jiho was the lead scientist of Project Silent Thunder. He was a quiet man with tired eyes and oil-stained fingers. He had worked on this project for 25 years, ever since he was a young engineer fresh from university. Now his hair was gray, but his work was finally complete. He walked past rows of ships. They did not look like the vessels used by the Galaxy Council. Council ships were loud and bright, covered in lights and weapons that screamed power. These ships were different. They were dark, smooth, silent. They looked like shadows given solid form. Beautiful, are they not? Said a voice behind him. Jiho turned to see Hannah walking toward him. She was the admiral of Earth's hidden fleet, a woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She wore a simple military uniform with no decorations. Hannah did not believe in medals. She believed in results. They are ready, Jiho said. Hannah nodded. I know. I have been running simulations all week. They walked together through the hangar, past ship after ship. 200 vessels in total. It seemed like a small number compared to the Council's endless fleets. But these ships were not like anything the galaxy had ever seen. Fold space drives, Jiho said, his voice full of quiet pride. The Council uses standard faster-than-light technology. They bend space to move quickly. But our drives do something different. They fold space completely. We do not travel through the distance. We skip it. Instant movement. Anywhere. Anytime. And the stealth systems? Hannah asked. Perfect. No energy signature. No heat emission. No radiation. These ships are invisible to every scanner the Council has ever built. They could fly through the middle of an enemy fleet and no one would see them. Hannah smiled. It was a cold smile, the smile of a predator waiting in tall grass. Good, because the enemy is coming. On the other side of the galaxy, in the great library of the Reva species, a historian named Kel was worried. Kel was not like the other Council delegates. He did not care about power or territory or wealth. He cared about truth. He spent his days studying ancient records, learning the histories of species that had risen and fallen over millions of years. And right now, he was studying humanity. He sat in front of a massive screen, scrolling through data that stretched back decades. Earth's electromagnetic emissions, radio signals, television broadcasts, internet traffic. For centuries, humanity had been loud. They screamed into the void without knowing anyone was listening. Their signals traveled through space, a constant noise that any advanced species could detect. And then, 47 years ago, the noise stopped. Kel leaned forward, his gray eyes narrow with thought. He checked the data again. It was not a gradual decline. It was sudden. One day, Earth was the loudest primitive world in the sector. The next day, silence. That is not normal, he whispered to himself. He pulled up more records. The Council's first contact with humanity. The welcome transmission that had been sent to Earth. The response from the human. Governments, there was no response at the time. The Council had assumed humanity was too primitive to understand the message. They laughed and added Earth to their list of future harvest targets. But Kel saw something different now. He looked at the timeline. The Council sent their message. It contained the hidden invasion plans, encrypted in a code that no primitive species could break. 3 days later, Earth went silent. 3 days, Kel felt a cold sensation crawl up his spine. It was fear. Real fear? They decoded it, he said softly. They decoded the message, and they went dark on purpose. He ran to find Vorn. The High Speaker was in his private chambers, celebrating the upcoming harvest of Earth, when Kel burst through the door. Vorn looked at him with annoyance. What do you want, historian? High Speaker, we need to talk about Earth. Vorn laughed. Earth, the mute primitives. What about them? They are not primitive. Kel placed his data tablet on the table. Look at this. Their electromagnetic emissions stopped exactly 3 days after we sent our welcome message. They decoded our encryption. They know about our harvest protocols. Vorn glanced at the tablet without interest. Impossible. Our encryption is unbreakable. It's for most species, yes. But humanity... ... Kel took a deep breath. Humanity went silent because they did not want us to hear them anymore. They have been hiding for 47 years. Watching, learning, preparing. The High Speaker stood up, his golden scales catching the light. He towered over the small historian.
Oh, you are a fool,
Vorn said. Humans are insects. They live on one small planet. They have no ships, no weapons, no technology worth mentioning. They cannot even speak in our council chamber. That is exactly what worries me. Kel's voice was desperate. They attend every session. They watch everything. They write in their little notebooks. But they never react. Never protest. Never fight back when we insult them. What kind of species does that? Vorn's eyes were cold. A weak one. Or a patient one. The High Speaker waved his hand dismissively. Enough. I have no time for your paranoid theories. The compliance vote has passed. In 30 days, Earth will be harvested. Their silence will finally cost them everything. Kel wanted to argue more, but he saw it was useless. Vorn was too proud to listen, too confident in his own power. As the historian walked away, he thought about all the species he had studied, the ones that rose and fell, the great empires that crumbled. They all had one thing in common. They underestimated their enemies, and now The Galaxy Council was making the same mistake. Back on Earth, Anna stood on a platform overlooking her fleet. 200 ships. 200 crews. They had trained in secret for decades. They had never seen real combat, but they were ready. She opened a communication channel to all ships, says Admiral Hannah. The Council has given us 30 days. They are coming to harvest our world, to enslave our people, to erase our history. She paused, letting her words sink in. For 47 years we have been silent. We have endured their insults. We have swallowed our pride. We have watched them laugh at us while we built the tools of their destruction. Her voice grew stronger.
Now,
Our silence ends. Not with words, with actions. When the enemy comes, we will show them what humanity becomes when pushed too far. We will show them the price of their arrogance. She looked at her ships, dark and deadly and waiting. We will show them that our patience was never weakness. It was a warning they were too foolish to understand. In the darkness of the underground hangar, 200 crews prepared for war, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. Seok had not slept in 3 days. The old chairman sat in his command center, watching screens that showed every corner of Earth's defense network. His hands were steady despite his age. His mind was clear despite his exhaustion. He had waited 47 years for this moment. He would not waste it on sleep. Yuna walked into the room with a tablet in her hands. Chairman, it is time. Seok nodded slowly. He stood up from his chair, his old bones cracking with the effort. Around him, dozens of officers watched in silence. They knew what was about to happen. They had prepared their entire lives for this. Send the reply, Seok said. Yuna's fingers moved across the tablet. Somewhere in a facility hidden beneath the ocean, a massive transmitter came to life. It sent a signal into space, aimed directly at the Galaxy Council's central station. For 47 years, Earth had been silent. Now, for the first time, humanity spoke. The message arrived at the Council station during a celebration. The delegates had gathered to divide Earth's resources among themselves. Maps of the blue planet covered the walls. Lists of valuable minerals. Estimates of slave labor. Projections of profit. Vorn stood at the center of it all, accepting congratulations from species who hoped to share in the harvest. He was already planning how to spend his portion of the wealth. Perhaps a new palace. Perhaps a fleet of personal ships. The possibilities were endless. Then the screens flickered. Every display in the chamber switched to the same image, the blue marble of Earth, floating peacefully in space. And then a voice spoke. It was translated into every language of every species present, so all could understand. This message is from the United Council of Earth. The chamber fell silent. Delegates looked at each other with confusion. Earth was speaking. The mute primitives had finally found their voice. Vorn laughed. Listen, everyone. The insects have learned to talk. But his laughter died when the next words came. For 47 years, we have attended your council sessions in silence. We have listened to your insults. We have recorded your plans. We have decoded every transmission you thought was secret. A document appeared on every screen. It was the council's hidden invasion protocol, the encrypted plans that detailed how to harvest primitive species. The plans that were supposed to be unbreakable? We decoded this 3 days after you sent it, the message continued. We have known your true intentions from the beginning. Panic spread through the chamber. Delegates jumped from their seats. Some ran for the exits. Others shouted demands for explanation. How could the primitives break encryption that had protected Council's secrets for millions of years? But the message was not finished. A new document appeared. It was a complete map of the Council's defense network. Every station, every fleet, every weapon, every weakness, all laid out in perfect detail. We've spent 47 years studying you, learning your technology, mapping your defenses. We know the location of every ship in your fleet. We know the access codes to your communication systems. We know the names of your commanders and the positions of your armies. Vorn's golden face had gone pale. He stared at the screens with wide eyes, unable to speak. The final part of the message was simple. Just one sentence. We were being polite. You should not have mistaken our patience for weakness. The screens went dark. For a long moment, no one moved. The celebration had turned into a funeral. The laughter had turned into fear. Then Vorn found his voice. This is a trick. He shouted, a desperate lie from a dying species. They're trying to scare us. He turned to his military commander, a scarred warrior named Tanis. Mobilize the enforcement fleet. 10,000 ships. Go to Earth and burn it to ash. Show the galaxy what happens when insects challenge the council.
Alnus.
Tanis hesitated. High Speaker, perhaps we should consider what? Vorn's voice was thunder. They are one planet with no visible defenses. We have the greatest military force in the galaxy. Go. Now, make an example of them. Tanis bowed his head. As you command. As the military commander left to prepare his fleet, Kel pushed through the crowd toward Vorn. The historian's face was pale with fear. High Speaker, please listen to me. This is a mistake. Not this again. Vorn did not even look at him. Your paranoid theories are not welcome. They decoded our encryption in 3 days. They mapped our entire defense network. They have been watching us for almost 50 years. Kel grabbed Vorn's arm, desperate to make him understand. Does that sound like a primitive species to you? Vorn pulled his arm free with disgust. It sounds like a species that is very good at spying. But spying is not fighting. When our fleet arrives, they will die like all the others. You do not understand. Kel's voice was barely a whisper. They were never afraid of us. They were never hiding because they were weak. They were waiting. Waiting for what? Kel looked at the High Speaker with eyes full of horror. Waiting for us to make the first move. Waiting for us to give them a reason. Vorn laughed again, but the sound was hollow. You worry too much, historian. In 1 week, Earth will be gone, and we will never have to think about the silent primitives again. He walked away. Leaving Kel standing alone in the ruined celebration, the historian looked at the dark screens, where Earth's message had played. He thought about all the species he had studied. The hunters who became the hunted. The empires that fell to enemies they did not take seriously. You have made a terrible mistake, he whispered to the empty air. And now we will all pay for it. On Earth, Sioek watched a screen that showed the Council's fleet gathering. 10,000 warships, the greatest military force in the known galaxy, all coming to destroy his world. Hannah stood beside him. They took the bait. The old chairman smiled. Of course they did. Arrogance is predictable. They cannot imagine a reality where they lose. Should I move the fleet into position? Not yet. Siok's eyes were fixed on the screen. Let them come. Let them see our world and believe they have one. The surprise will be sweeter that way. He looked at Hannah with eyes that held 47 years of patience. When I was young, I made a promise. I promised that humanity would survive, that we would not be harvested like animals, that we would not be erased from the universe. He turned back to the screen. Today, I keep that promise. Hannah saluted. Then she left to prepare her fleet. In the darkness of space, 10,000 council ships flew toward Earth. They carried weapons capable of destroying continents. They carried soldiers trained to enslave entire populations. They believed they were going to an easy victory. They did not know that 200 silent hunters were already waiting for them, and they did not know that humanity had been preparing for this battle since. Before most of their soldiers were born, the galaxy was about to learn a terrible lesson. Some silences are not weakness. Some silences are the quiet before a storm, and humanity's storm was about to break. The enforcement fleet arrived in Earth's solar system with the confidence of predators entering an empty cage. 10,000 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. Commander Tanis stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on his view screen. Scan for defenses, he ordered. His officers worked quickly. Sensors swept across the entire solar system, searching for orbital stations, weapons platforms, hidden fleets. They found nothing. No defenses detected, an officer reported. No ships. No stations. Just the planet. Tanis allowed himself a small smile. Vorn was right. The human message had been nothing but a desperate bluff. They had decoded some transmissions and learned some secrets, but they had no real power. They were just insects pretending to be dangerous. Formation sphere, he commanded. Surround the planet. Standard intimidation pattern. 10,000 ships spread out, forming a massive sphere around Earth. From every direction, weapons pointed at the blue world below. Mountains, oceans, cities, all of it was within range. All of it could be destroyed with a single command. Tanis opened a communication channel. His voice would reach every speaker on Earth. People of Earth, your silence has ended, but it is too late. You are surrounded by the greatest military force in the galaxy. You have no ships, no defenses, no hope. He paused for effect. Surrender now, and some of you may be allowed to live as servants. Resist, and your world will burn. You have 1 minute to respond. Silence. The minute passed. Earth said nothing. Tanis shook his head with disappointment. So be it. First bombardment wave. Target their largest cities. Fire. 1,000 ships launched their weapons. Bright beams of energy raced toward Earth. Enough firepower to crack continents and boil oceans. The beams hit nothing. Tanis leaned forward, confused. What happened? His officer's voice was shaking. Commander, the planet is not there. What do you mean? It is a projection. A hologram. The real Earth is. We do not know where the real Earth is. Before Tanis could respond, his sensors screamed with warnings. Ships were appearing inside his formation. Not outside where they could be seen coming, inside. They materialized from empty space, as if they had been there all along. 200 human vessels. Dark and silent and deadly. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Smooth holes that reflected no light. No engine glow. No energy signature. They looked like pieces of the void given form. A voice came through every communication channel in the Council fleet. It was a woman's voice, calm and cold. You came to harvest a world. You will leave as a warning. The battle began. It was not really a battle. It was a slaughter. The human ships did not fight like normal vessels. They did not fly in patterns. They did not trade shots from a distance. They disappeared. One moment, a human ship would be in front of a council vessel. The next moment, it was gone. Then it would appear behind another ship and fire a single shot. Then gone again. The council weapons could not track what they could not see. Targeting systems went mad, locking onto empty space where human ships had been a fraction of a second before. Missiles flew in every direction, sometimes hitting other council vessels. What are they doing? Tanis shouted. How are they moving like that? No one could answer him. Human ships were appearing and disappearing all across the formation, striking and vanishing like ghosts. Each shot was precise. Each target was destroyed. The Council fleet was designed to fight enemies who followed the rules of space combat. The humans followed no rules. 4 minutes into the battle, 8,000 Council ships were dead. The human fleet had taken no losses. Tanis watched in horror as his mighty armada was torn apart by 200 silent hunters. Ships exploded around him in every direction. Distress calls flooded the communication channels. Commanders screaming for help. Soldiers praying to gods who did not answer. Retreat, Tanis finally ordered. All ships, retreat. Get out of the system. The remaining 2,000 ships tried to run. They turned away from the massacre and pushed their engines to maximum power. But faster-than-light travel required time to calculate and charge. Time they did not have. Human ships appeared in front of the fleeing vessels. Behind them, around them, there was no escape. There was only death. The slaughter continued for another 7 minutes. When it was over, only 100 Council ships remained. They drifted in space with their engines disabled, unable to run, unable to fight. The human fleet surrounded them like wolves around wounded animals. Tanis waited for the final blow. He had seen what humanity did to ships that resisted. He expected no mercy. A human ship materialized directly beside his crippled flagship, close enough to touch. Its weapons were aimed at his bridge. One shot would end everything. The communication channel opened again. The same woman's voice, "Commander Tanis, do you know why we let you live?" He could barely speak. His throat was dry with fear. "No, because dead enemies cannot deliver messages. And we have a message for the Galaxy Council." A pause. "Turn to your masters. Tell them what you saw here today. Tell them that 10,000 of their finest warships were destroyed in 11 minutes by 200 human vessels. Tell them that we allowed you to escape. Tell them this was mercy." The woman's voice grew harder. "And tell them this. Earth has finished listening. Now we speak. The next fleet that threatens our world will receive no warning, no mercy, no survivors." The channel closed. The 100 surviving ships limped away from Earth's solar system. Behind them, the wreckage of 8,000 vessels drifted in the darkness. The greatest military defeat in the history of the galaxy. On the bridge of her flagship, Hannah watched them go. Her face showed no emotion, no triumph, no satisfaction, just cold determination. "Admiral," her lieutenant said, "should we pursue?" "No." Hannah turned away from the view screen. "They will spread our message faster than any transmission. Fear travels quickly. Let them run." She opened a channel to SIOC on Earth. "It is done." The old chairman's face appeared on her screen. He looked tired, but satisfied. "How many did we lose?" "None. Not a single ship. Not a single life." Siok closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were wet. 47 years, he whispered. 47 years of silence, of patience, of preparation, and it was worth it. All of it was worth it. "What happens now?" Hannah asked. The old man smiled. It was a smile of peace, a smile of completion. Now we stop hiding. Now we step out of the shadows and take our place in the galaxy." He looked at her with pride. "Now we speak." In the void of space, the wreckage of 10,000 ambitions floated silently. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not prey. Humanity had never been prey, and the silence that had protected them for 47 years was finally, truly, forever broken. The 100 surviving ships returned to the Galaxy Council station 3 days later. They did not arrive as a proud fleet. They arrived as broken refugees, their hulls scarred, their crews traumatized, their commanders silent with shame. Tanis walked into the Grand Assembly Hall with the weight of 8,000 dead ships on his shoulders. Every delegate watched him cross the floor. No one spoke. The footage from the battle had already spread across 3,000 worlds. Everyone knew what had happened. He stopped before Vorn's podium. The High Speaker looked like he had aged 20 years in 3 days. His golden scales were dull. His eyes were hollow, Report Vorn said. His voice was barely a whisper. Tanis straightened his back, forcing himself to meet the High Speaker's gaze. The enforcement fleet was destroyed. "High Speaker, 10,000 ships. 11 minutes. We never landed a single hit. Their technology." He paused, searching for words. "Their technology is beyond anything we have ever seen. They fold space itself. They appear and disappear at will. Our weapons could not even target them." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Delegates looked at each other with fear. "And the humans?" Vorn asked. "How many did we destroy?" "None." The murmuring stopped. The silence was total. Tanis repeated. "We destroyed 0 human ships. They suffered no casualties. We threw our entire fleet at them, and we did nothing." Warren sat down heavily in his chair. He looked like a man watching his world collapse. And in many ways he was. The news spread like fire through dry grass. Species began withdrawing from the council. Trade agreements were canceled. Alliances crumbled. The great union of 3,000 worlds, built over millions of years, was falling apart in days. Everyone was afraid. If humanity could destroy 10,000 ships so easily, what else could they do? What would they do next? Were they coming for revenge? Were they coming to conquer? In the chaos, Kel, the historian, stepped forward. He walked to the center of the chamber and raised his voice. "High Speaker, I request that Earth be given speaking rights. Full speaking rights. Not as a primitive species. Not as a subject world. As an equal power." Orn looked at him with empty eyes. "You cannot be serious. I am completely serious." Kel's voice was firm. "We have treated them as insects for 47 years. We mocked them, threatened them, tried to harvest them, and they responded by destroying our greatest fleet without losing a single ship." He gestured at the frightened delegates around him. "They could come here right now and kill every one of us. But they have not. They sent a message instead. They want to talk. They are monsters," someone shouted from the crowd. "They killed 8,000 crews. We sent those crews to kill them first," Kel replied calmly. "They defended themselves. And they showed mercy by letting 100 ships escape." He looked at Vorn. "High Speaker, we have two choices. We can give them a voice in this council and hope for peace. Or we can continue to treat them as enemies and wait for them to finish what we started." Vorn was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly he nodded. ... The council recognizes Earth as an equal power. Full speaking rights are granted." The words felt like surrender, because they were. 2 days later, the Grand Assembly Hall was full again. Every seat was occupied. Every eye was fixed on one spot, the podium that's been empty for 47 years. Tay walked in wearing the same simple black suit he always wore. He carried his notebook in one hand and a tablet in the other. His footsteps echoed in the silence. He reached the podium and looked out at the assembly. 3,000 species. Millions of delegates. They had laughed at him for 2 decades. Thrown insults at him. Called him primitive and stupid and worthless. Now they sat in terrified silence. Waiting for his words, Tay placed his tablet on the podium and began to speak. His voice was calm, steady, almost gentle. "For 47 years I sat in this chamber and listened. I listened to you plan our extinction. I listened to you divide our world like meat at a feast. I listened to you call us primitive, call us insects, call us resources to be harvested." He paused, letting his words settle over the crowd. "We could have spoken. We could have protested. We could have begged for mercy or threatened war. But we chose silence. Do you know why?" No one answered. "'Cause silence let us listen. Silence let us learn. Silence let us prepare." His eyes swept across the delegates. "You taught us that this galaxy respects only one thing, power. So we built power beyond your comprehension. Not to conquer. Not to rule. Simply to exist without your permission." Vorn sat motionless, unable to meet the human's gaze. 47 years ago, we received your welcome message. We decoded the hidden layer within 3 days. We saw your plans for us. The slavery, the harvesting, the extinction. Tay's voice remained calm, but there was iron beneath the words. Most species would have panicked. Most species would have surrendered or fought immediately. We did neither. We waited. He held up his old notebook, the one he had carried to every council session for 20 years. "I have notes from every session I attended. Every insult, every threat, every secret you thought I was too stupid to understand. I wrote it all down. I sent it all home. And my people used every piece of information to prepare for this day." He set the notebook down. "Earth does not seek war. We never wanted to fight. We wanted to be left alone. To build our civilization in peace. To explore the stars on our own terms." His voice hardened slightly. "But you would not allow that. You saw us as prey. And so we became predators instead." Silence filled the chamber. "The fleet you sent to destroy us is gone. 10,000 ships. Millions of soldiers. All dead because of your arrogance." Tay leaned forward. "The 100 we allowed to escape? That was mercy. The only mercy you will receive." He straightened up again. "We are not here to threaten. We are not here to demand tribute or territory. We are here to deliver a simple message. Leave us alone. Trade with us if you wish. Talk with us if you wish. But never threaten our world again. His final words rang through the chamber like the toll of a great bell. Humanity's patience has limits. You have found them. The next species that tests those limits will not receive a warning. They will receive only silence. He paused. And you have learned what our silence truly means. Tay bowed politely, just as he had bowed after every session for 20 years. Then he returned to his seat. The chamber remained silent for a long time. 3 months later, Seok died peacefully in his sleep. He was surrounded by his family and the officers who had served him for decades. His last words were to Hannah. "We survived," he whispered. "That is enough." He closed his eyes with a small smile on his face. The man who had chosen silence had lived to see its victory. Kel became the galaxy's foremost expert on human history. He wrote a book called The Silence That Conquered. It became required reading for diplomats across 3,000 worlds. The lesson was simple. Never underestimate a species that chooses patience over panic. Tay continued attending council sessions. He spoke now, when it was necessary, but he never spoke much. He still brought his notebook. He still took notes on everything that happened. The other delegates learned to watch him carefully. When the human ambassador was quiet, they paid attention. Because they understood now, human silence was not weakness. It was observation. Human silence was not fear. It was preparation. Human silence was not surrender. It was the calm before a storm that could destroy worlds. And so the galaxy learned to respect the species that had waited 47 years to say their first word. Because when humanity finally spoke, the universe listened, and no one ever laughed at the silent seat again.